Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Bricks King podcast, where I'm going to bend your ear about Lego, review those amazing bricks of plastic, and discuss what is new and up and coming around the Lego world. I'm your minifig host, Matt. Let's build on it. Welcome in, everybody. How are we doing today? Another new episode, a finale, a tie-up, a wrap-up, a goodbye to the Ninjago wave for Dragons Rising. We still do have the market sitting back here, which needs to be discussed. However, today is the finale, and we are talking about the single final set in this wave, which is, well, it's another set. No, of course it's not. If you're a Ninjago fan, it's not another set. By the time you are hearing this, I'm pretty sure the new Ninjago season on Netflix is going to be released at this point in time. Depending where you are around the world, you may already have it. If you're on the far, far, far east where time starts over, which is a crazy idea to me. I still don't fully understand that one. Anyway, we are talking about Destiny's Bounty Race Against Time. The set number is 71797. It has 1,739 pieces and retails for $160 and 150 euros. Now, if you recall, on the last episode, we talked about the elemental dragon and stuff like that, and that was at 130, and it was just a hair over 1,000 pieces, and we're getting, an extra 700 pieces here. Methinks somebody messed up on the pricing. just a little bit. Anyway, so let's go ahead and dig into this one. So we do have Ninja, obviously, and then we also do have a big old bounty, which is a new bounty for this season, like almost always is. And we do have a cute little dragon that we have to talk about as well. So let's start off with minifigs. So our minifigs are kind of redundant at this point in time. We do have Kai, who is the red ninja, if you haven't figured that out by now. We have the same idea with him. Lloyd, we do have same idea, except he only comes with one katana, which is kind of odd. Then we have Sora, who comes with her little cat hat that she's got going on, and her two katanas. And then we have Aaron yet again with his weird anchor type chain thing, whatever's going on. I'm not quite sure. We have Ryu, who is the baby dragon, yet we get again. And then we have Rapton. And this time Rapton has the sword, but he also has a kind of grappling hook on a chain that he has. This is the one and only time that we get Sensei, Master Wu, however you want to refer to him as such, all in the white garb yet again with his little typical hat and his white flowing beard and his little cane or staff, depending on how he chooses to use it from season to season, episode to episode. Anyway, the printing on him is fine. There's nothing special about it. Here is what I found fascinating. Most of the faces that we get for Wu, on the back side, it's not a dual face, obviously, because it's an open head, but we usually get his ponytail, if that's what you want to call it, that is in the back, and we don't get it here, and that's weird to me. Now, I have not watched the new season yet, because it's not out at the time of this recording, but I'll be curious, A, if we'll get to see the back end of his head, and B, why is it not on the minifig head? Because it's been a staple since, forever, it seems. So I'm curious about that one. So those are your minifigs. Let's talk about the giant flying ship, which is crazy to begin with anyway. It's almost like is it almost like I don't even know at this point. Like, it's like weird world that is going on to have a ship flying in the air, which is kind of propelled and almost not propelled and has wings or flaps, or it's always puzzled me. But anyway, let's talk about it. So initially, when I got the press release for this, I was like, oh yeah, it's another bounty. It's another flying bounty. It's fine. It's whatever. I initially thought, well, this is going to be kind of small, right? Like, yes, I know where we're at as far as part count, 1,700 pieces. I'm like, okay, and a lot of the community, the Ninjago fan community, were like, well, the center is super thin. It looks weird. It doesn't feel like a real bounty. And we've seen some really bad bounties in the past. So this is not, in comparison, a bad bounty. Now, my question here behind some things is, okay, what are we doing here? And the reason I say that is this. We do have the skinny middle, which is kind of weird, but it almost feels like you can pick it up there, but you start busting things off. So it's not advised to grab it in the middle. And we'll talk about the rest of it here in a minute. Anyway, so let's start with the bounty here in the front. In the front of this thing, we have some gold accents and stuff like that, because that's what the bounty always seems to have, along with the red, of course. So we have this kind of narrow bounty in the front. It was kind of a pain to get these last couple sections on in the front. I followed the instructions. It felt kind of wonky. Not the biggest fan of the way it went together right there. However, we have the stickers on the side that say Destiny's Bounty. And of course, we have very long slope pieces here along the side, giving it some texture, giving it some coverage and stuff like that. Immediately on the top section in the front, it's naked. What the hell? What? You giving me a half-built bounty? What's wrong with you? Well, we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But it is still a little bit of a bugaboo of mine. So continuing on that top section on the top deck, we have a spot where there's a tea kettle with some teacups. We have some mats that are here on the floor, on the deck, not on the floor, that, you sit at. You're playing some kind of Bakugan or, Othello or maybe checkers. I don't even know if most kids are going to even get the Othello reference. And then we have a nice little garden here with, or I should say a little planter here with some plants and stuff like that. The railings that go down the side in the front section here, I actually do like a lot. In the black, it works fine. Just seems a little unsturdy in the front. And I have done so many different things to try and, lock in stabilization and such. And every single time I go to pick this thing up and I don't have the front locked into place, I feel like things are going to fall off. And I've not had that happen, but it most definitely feels like if I don't grab this in the right position, things are going to fall off and I'm going to have a giant mess on my hands. So continuing on, that area, by the way, with the tea kettle and stuff like that does flip up so you can get the dragon in there that we'll talk about in a moment. The center mast is on just a Technic frame. It does have some gearing here that allows you to push the wings out and pull the wings in. Now, I will say this is not the best mechanism because one of the wings goes out further than the other. I'm not a physicist, I'm not an engineer, but not the biggest fan of how that works. I definitely think that could have been better. Honestly, I would have preferred them to be locked into place instead of having the ability to open and close. Close looks fine. Open looks actually worse. Not the biggest fan of that. And the other thing is this only turns so far. It doesn't turn a full 360, which is kind of a pain in the butt. We do have the plastic wings that are up here on the top for the sails. Down on the middle of the Technic beam, we just have a little pumpkin with the tassel that's hanging underneath it. I do love the idea that they use the telephone receiver piece, the receiver piece that you would talk into in an old style phone, which most kids are going to be like, oh, what? I do like that. It adds a nice texture. It keeps things, I won't say locked in, but it keeps things kind of contained, I guess, if you will. So moving to the back section, the second half of this, we have the bridge up here. We do have a movable steering wheel. We have a compass that can move up and down, forward and back. We do have it's not a sextant, but it feels like it should be. It's a long scope to be able to look and see what is going on out there in the world on the seas. Then we move back to the actual parts that make the most sense. We're going to start on the outside here. On the outside, you have 2 engines that rotate forward and backward, not in and out, obviously. You know, that makes absolute common sense. If you don't know that by now, I'm sorry. However, putting the engines on was not the problem. On the rotating joints, that is not the problem. The problem came with trying to put the accent pieces on the outside of these. They have to be lined up ever so perfectly. And if they aren't, things start popping off. And the only reason I say that is because I endured this. It was something that I went through multiple times, and I became increasingly frustrated. And I was like, what are we doing here? Why? And even to this point, you know, having them attached, I'm still kind of, I don't understand the purpose of this. Why did we do such a thing? Why was this chosen to be a thing? And I don't know. You know, I've thought about it a while. I don't know. So aside from the exterior pieces, which are long slopes that they have going on here, what we do have is a nice little engine body. And they use the trans light blue tiles on the front and the rear to show propulsion or intake or whatever, reverse thrust, however you want to look at it. And it does. I mean, it works out really well. It looks really nice. It adds a different depth than we have seen with some of the bounties in the past, where you kind of look at it and you say, what happened here? Why did we not get this? Or why did we not get that? So it works out quite well. The rotation of these engines is, I mean, it's 360 degrees as long as it's not sitting in a location where things get blocked. So that is nice. I do appreciate that. Off to the rear, we have some flags that are adorned here in the back. Of course, all of these have the dragon hilt head all over the place. We have another little lantern back here that's hanging off of the rear. And then we have some engines, 4 more, that are back here using some round, big, chunky pieces that have some trans blue dishes. When I say dishes, like kind of the satellite dish / umbrella piece that are on top. Looks pretty good. Doesn't look bad. So let's dive into the belly of this. We have 2 beds that are in here. We have some more teacups, which is nice. We have some fruit or some kind of printed, what looks like fruit, on these 1x1 round tiles. We have 2 video game controllers with mats to sit your minifig on, and a screen, which is a sticker, where we have Kai versus a skeleton warrior. That is a way throwback, which I think is kind of nice. In here, we also have a weapons rack that has a katana. It has some shurikens. It has some sais, which nobody used sais, so I guess that's fine. And then on the opposite wall, what we have is we have another sticker here. It has Baby Ryu. It has some other drawings that are on it. It is essentially supposed to be a game plan, an idea of a strategy, what we're going to do, how are we going to beat them. And it has a little yellow tile that is supposed to be an eraser, I'm assuming, and a little white piece that looks like some kind of marker or piece of chalk. I don't know if chalkboards are even used anywhere in the modern world at this point in time, so you got me there if they are. So moving on to the next section, just above that, we have a gorgeously colored section. It has a light kind of tealish aqua blue, that flamish yellow orange. We do have a sextant inside. We have some katanas, and we have something that looks like a child drawing with a red dragon, just kind of breathing fire or something like that. I'm not really sure what that's supposed to be. Hanging above, we have some kind of scripture, what almost looks like some kind of certificate. Again, I'll be curious to see how that works. There's nothing else in here, which seems like almost like a waste of space. It does have good texturing, but it almost feels like something is lacking, as if we could have, something else that fits in here. Now, this is a loose fitting piece. It is not meant to be studded into place. It is meant to be something that is easily removable for play or action or whatever, which is nice because in the past we have had some things as far as sections go where you're kind of like, how am I going to get this off without ripping off the pieces underneath? So that is nice. So moving up to the roof section of this area, I am a big fan. It does open on both sides, has nice texturing with black element pieces all over the place. But my favorite thing about this is you can put baby Ryu. Is it baby Ryu? Ryu. You put the baby Ryu in here, and this is essentially supposed to be his playpen. If you've ever had a child, you know what I'm talking about. This is his playpen. So there are two little containers here. One has a pretzel, one has a carrot. There's some bones that are clipped in here. There's a turkey leg. There's a green apple. There's a round sphere that is supposed to be a ball. It's almost like it's supposed to be a dog to a certain point, which is kind of funny to me. And I'm assuming as the season goes along, again, I have not seen the season because at the time of this recording, it is not available. Actually, it's not available anywhere in the world. So we're just gonna go with not just in the US, everywhere. Nobody else has it. But this is his little playpen, his little area where I guess he goes to bed at night as they're flying about, or maybe they're on the ocean, which seems like a bad design, but hey, whatever. But it is definitely constructed like a doghouse. You do have an opening on the rear and on the front of it, which is nice. You close that up. You can actually lock pieces into place here so that you don't have any concerns whether your dragon is going to go here, there, or the other. No, I'm just totally kidding. Your dragon is going to go to places. So you close those up and you just have some nice decoration on the outside of this. It sits nicely on the rear of this thing. It can be clipped into place. There are two clips that receive this that use a 1x2 plate that has click joints on the end. So you cannot. It is completely up to you. So as a whole, I did forget to mention the anchors, which fell off in transit. Not the best design for the anchors. Not hating. Definitely not the best design that I've seen for anchor detail. As a whole, I think the bounty update is okay. It is definitely not the best. It could have been worse. Absolutely. I am not a big fan that you have to get this set to get Master Wu at $160. I think that is absolute bullcrap. And I mean, we've seen Wu come in sets in the past that were like $30. And I think back to the season, the place is eluding me at the moment, but where we had the sorcerer dragon and stuff like that. We had the rhino, and I mean, we had some really cool sets. Not saying we didn't have cool sets in this wave, but we got Wu at a cheaper price point. And I'm not a big fan that a kid that might identify with Master Wu has to get him at this price point, or doesn't get him at this price point. That has to be adjusted in the future moving forward, especially because this is not an icon set, right? This is not a high-end type of thing. This is a wave. So again, and maybe kids are like, hey, I don't like Master Wu. I want Aaron. I want Sora. We've got plenty of them. We have plenty of the ninja. We have plenty of Ryu. I think this is the third or fourth time. It's definitely the third. I think it might even be fourth. I don't know about it. So let's talk about the dragon. Dragon, light teal, aqua blue, whatever you want to call it here. A nice little dragon, not bad at all. So it does have ball joints at all four hip joints. In the front, the knees are locked. In the rear, the knees are locked, but they're brick built. All of the feet are the same. They are on a ball joint. So you have plenty of posability here. In the body, it is small, But there is a chair, a brick built chair here for your minifig. And it does have 2 control arms, which is nice. And then it has 2 stud shooters to be able to fire around. Now, the actual chair itself does spin around 360 degrees, which I am a giant fan of. I have always been a proponent of give me all the mobility I can have without costing, playability, I guess you could say, or in a sense, maneuverability. I understand why they lock knees at some sets and other sets, I completely get it, but I love the idea here. It's not a knee, but I love the idea of how we can use this and roll around. So we have some texturing down the spine of this thing. We have 3 individual tail segments. Both the first 2 are the same. They are ball jointed together. And then the rear has a katana that is sticking out the end of it. We do have some flamish yellow, goldish, whatever you want to call it, colored type wings. They are baby wings. I'm assuming this is maybe supposed to be Ryu at some point, but I don't know how that works necessarily because we do have a baby Ryu in this set. Anyway, so let's talking about the neck and the head. We do have a very long neck here. The base of the neck is on a click joint, can go up 90 degrees, and it can come down until it's level with the where it should be with the head. The neck section is on a ball joint, and then the head section is on a ball joint as well. The head section has printed eyes, which I am a fan of. The mouth is not open. It is completely closed. It's locked into place. It's not a regular head, so it leads me to believe this is a juvenile dragon and potentially could be Ryu. There are some flamish orange yellow type fire pieces or horns or however you want to classify that as coming out of the rear of the head, which is nice. The cool thing about this is you can fold this puppy up and guess what? That naked empty spot that I talked about in the beginning, it fits into the front. You lift that front deck assembly, you drop your dragon in there, and there you go. You've got a little turret assembly. You've got this whole idea going on. Now, the problem I have with that is this. On the bottom side of it, it's open. Yes, your dragon's in there, but it looks really, really bad in my opinion. It's not my favorite part of the build. The front of the build it's okay. I'm not a fan of the anchors. I'm not a fan of the open spot, even though the dragon is in there, which is a cool idea. They did this with the, it wasn't crystallized. They did it with the water series when Nia, well, this is not a spoiler at this point, when Nia becomes the water goddess. Niak had mentioned they had done this, they had planned this where the front of that submersible bounty opened up and you had this other thing that came out of it. This is essentially a continuation in a different way though, because it's a dragon. It's not coming out the very front. It's flying up and out. So I get that, just not a fan of it. It's my own personal thought, but I'm just not a big fan of it. So as a whole, I think the set is okay. Like I'd mentioned, is it worth $160? If you're looking at pieces, yes. If you're looking at value for what you're getting, no. I already told you I'm not a fan of part of this. I am definitely not a fan of Master Wu coming in on this set only. Give me another Wu somewhere else. Give me middle range price point Wu. I'll take that. Don't give it to me in the most expensive set. I don't like that. As a wave in general, I think it's turned out pretty well. There are some sets that are well overpriced. There are some sets that are well within where they should be. There are sets that have great playability. There are sets that reach just about every single audience. I would have to say from the entire wave, my favorite 2 sets, believe it or not, one of them is the $20 set with the Imperium Dragon Hunter Hound. I have that one on display. Why? Because I think it looks wicked. I think it looks incredibly awesome. One of the other ones that I had a tough time choosing was between the Temple of the Dragon Energy Cores, which we did on the last episode, and the Elemental Dragon versus the Empress Mech. And here's why. I think the Temple is an incredible build. I think it's one of those things that is going to live in lore for Ninjago sets at some point in time. I just hope it is touched on in the series. We know the series is coming out in 2 parts. The first part coming out in June 1st. Again, that's here in a couple days at the time of this recording. The Elemental Dragon I thought was incredibly well built. I love the color scheme. I love the wings expanding and contracting. I love the texturing of it. I love the giant ability to be able to stand this thing up, get it up there, get it going. It reminded me of Firstborn, which is still, in my opinion, the best dragon that they have ever done. But the other thing is the mech. The mech is, like I had mentioned on the last episode, it's between a mini mech and a big mech. It is not, maybe medium is the wrong size. Maybe just a hair below medium. If those of you that eat meat, y'all know at this point in time I don't. But those of you that eat meat, you have a steak done, you're like, I want it medium. I don't know, whatever's below medium. A hair below medium. You tell them, I want it a hair below medium. That's where I think this mech is. It doesn't feel like it's medium. It doesn't feel like it's big. It doesn't feel like it's small, but it also doesn't feel like it's 100% in that medium range. So I love the mech. I love the dragon. Between that and actually the smaller set, those are my two favorite in this entire wave. If I had to pick, I couldn't do it. Obviously, price point is going to lead you in a different location. You're like, you know what? I will take the $20 set versus the big old set that's $130 or 105 euros, which again blows my mind. I don't quite understand how that goes about. I would assume it's a misprinting and maybe it's 124 euros, 125 euros, but I don't know. Anyway, so that's going to wrap up the wave. Ninjago, as we know it, is done for, I would imagine, 2023. Maybe November we'll get some more. Maybe around November, December, we might get another smattering of Ninjago. Maybe before. I'm hopeful for before. I am full on let's go ahead of time. But I just don't see that being the case. So hope you enjoyed the Ninjago series. I still have the markets coming to you. Stay tuned in the next few days. We will have that coming your way. We have a bunch of things still coming. We have episodes with Tom Jurassic coming your way, talking about some Star Wars stuff for you Star Wars fans out there, and also the Jurassic stuff, which, of course, you know, at this point in time, the Jurassic wave is incredible. I have those sets done, ready to go. Those episodes will be coming from me, and they'll also, we'll do a joint episode with Tom here in the coming future. So, until we meet again, I'm your minifig host, Matt. Let's build on it.